Good morning. I want to talk to you for a few minutes about complacency. Webster's dictionary defines complacency as self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. Complacency is perhaps one of the biggest problems that we face in completing our day-to-day tasks. We're used to things being a certain way each time, and unless something obvious comes right out and hits us, we can be oblivious to all of it. And this is a state of mind which can affect many things, such as productivity and quality, and particularly in our context, safety. Every once in a while, if you're paying attention, perhaps on Facebook or perhaps in some other context, someone will come out with an experiment or an example of how the human mind operates. And what they'll do is they'll write a full paragraph and they'll mix up the letters, except that they will make sure that the first letter of a word and the last letter of a word are in place, and then they'll mix up the rest of the letters in the middle. Now, you can read that. It's not that difficult. Maybe the first couple of words throws you off, but once you figure this out, you can read right away through it, because all of the letters don't necessarily have to be in order as long as the first letter and the last letter are in the right place. You can read it because you're used to reading not individual letters, you're used to reading whole words. So once you get the flow of it, you pick this up fairly carefully, or fairly easily, I should say. So you really don't have that much trouble reading a paragraph that's structured that way, and you'll see, like I say, examples of this on Facebook from time to time. People will prop these things up there. So maybe it takes you aback at first, but eventually you're able to zip right through those paragraphs. And that's an example of how complacency works with our mind. We get used to words starting with certain letters and being a certain length, and we skip right over it thinking that we know what the word is. And that's how that tends to be. In reading paragraphs, perhaps that's not such a big deal. It's kind of an interesting novelty. However, when it comes to safety, complacency can be a genuine killer on the job. Each moment that we're working with hazardous energy, whether it's a large production machine, a forklift, an automobile, power tools, electricity, or even walking from one end of a job site to another, we need to keep focused on the task at hand. We get injured when we stop paying attention and just get used to everything being the way our mind expects it to be. So there's a certain amount of danger of going into autopilot when we're working on the job. All too often we don't realize how complacent we are until we have a near miss or until we have some kind of a close call. And these events tend to jumpstart your heart as the little flush of adrenaline that shoots through you and focuses your attention, at least for a little while, on the task at hand. So at the point at which it kind of smacks you in the face, then you stop and reset and have a bit of a look at things differently. Otherwise, you can get very, very complacent, especially when you're working at height. This can happen if you're not really focused on exactly what you're doing. One technique that's found to be effective in battling complacency in your own actions is to watch the actions of others while they work. We talk about this. There's a certain amount of situational awareness. You want to be able to understand what other people are doing and perceive accurately what's going on with them. Now, watching how other people do what they do from time to time is one of those things that has a dual-fold effect, in that it raises your awareness as you examine the actions of a coworker as they're working, and it may raise your coworker's awareness if you share with them some of the observations that you made that would allow them to do their job in a safer manner. Now, be careful how you do that. As iron workers, we tend to communicate very forthrightly. So be aware of what you're doing, especially with when you're dealing with younger iron workers, guys that are coming along. You can help them remain safe, especially if you've got years of experience and you've got knowledge about how things can be done more safely. So consider this carefully. Consider the issue of complacency. Consider how you can avoid complacency yourself and how you can help others to avoid complacency, so that we all can go to work, get our job done, come home safely, and not fall prey to this whole complacency thing that will tend to allow things to happen simply because we're just not paying attention. Thanks.